Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Stream of Truth. I hope it's going live. I hit the button and I can't tell until it starts to show up on our devices. But I'm here again with Dr. Tassel. And today we're going to be talking about how to be your own hero and sort of our different personal missions. Well, I should say our similar and same personal mission or partnership mission, I guess, to deliver empowerment to people, how to step into their own power. And I was wondering, Tassel, before we get into all of it, do you have anything to add to what I just said there about the mission?
I'm sorry, I wasn't quite paying attention. I was getting the live stream
No,
up.
that's okay. That's okay. That's perfect. I was just
Uh,
wondering if you wanted to add to sort of the topic today. So I said that we're going to be talking about you are your own hero and how to hero, how those came into being, what that means for us, that type of thing. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to that?
I'm super excited to talk about this topic. I'm excited to hear more of your journey
Yeah.
of this became so important to you, and I'm excited to talk about my own. And then I'm excited maybe to hear from other people about their experience with being their own hero as well.
Awesome. Awesome. And I wore a fitting shirt for it today, and I just realized that I got heroes all over me. So that's
That's
perfect.
so true. That is
And
perfect. I
I
didn't put that
I didn't
together.
I didn't choose this for this stream. I didn't know we were going to talk about this until after. So it's just interesting.
Weird.
Um,
And
yes,
I synchronicity.
yeah, it's nice. It's nice. So yeah, I guess do you want to start just if we could go over our mission statement again for Stream of Truth, like what we're doing here, just for people that haven't seen it before, that type
Yeah,
of thing.
absolutely. This is our mission. It's to bring self healing and expansion through living in our truth, sharing practices, experiences, and teachings in an uncensored, unrestrained way, and always with love, and helping others understand and know that they are their own hero.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, so we added that little bit at the end because we thought it's important. Like that's what we talk about constantly. Um, yeah, so I think that that's a good place. I guess I want to sort of start with your "You Are Your Own Hero." I find that to be more punchy than my branding that I went with, which was "How to Hero." Um, and I think I know a lot of the story already, but I think I'm just curious, sort of how you arrived at that, and and I guess what caused you to frame it in that way.
Yeah. Um, so I think part of it has to do with growing up as a female in our culture. I don't, the farthest thing I ever thought of myself was as my own hero. That was not something I ever thought about myself.
Yeah.
I definitely, I think I received messaging from pretty much everyone in society that I wasn't very powerful and that I wasn't able to be, say, self sufficient, and that I wasn't able to make decisions for myself. Um, so I would say I grew up feeling very much not like a hero and very much almost, I would say, maybe victim is too strong of a word, but sort of just a passive um, entity that like anything could happen to me and that I didn't really have my own power or my own agency. I really love the word agency,
Mm.
my own ability to create my life in the way that I would like to live it.
Yeah.
So I would just, to summarize, I would say I grew up feeling very unempowered.
Mm.
Um, and I absolutely looked towards others for their advice and their suggestions and for their guidance constantly. I did not at all trust my own intuition, my own guidance, my own knowingness. I did not trust it at all,
Yeah.
at all. So that kind of was the spectrum from parents to boyfriends to teachers to eventually gurus and therapists. I was constantly going outside of me to look for answers.
Yeah.
And as I've said before, this really led, I would say, to almost, it sounds dramatic, but catastrophic outcomes for my life. Mm-hmm. Because how can anyone else really know what I want or what my life mission is or what I'm here for but me? So I was constantly following what other people told me to do.
Yep.
And I just found myself in a very unhappy marriage, really without a career or life purpose that seemed aligned to me, in poor health, living places that I didn't like. I was living a life that didn't feel like me at all. It was completely misaligned.
Yeah.
So, and then as we've talked about a little bit, I basically see that spirit source isolated me, just like took me out of the equation completely. And it forced me to finally go within myself and finally listen to what was coming through me. Mm-hmm. And finally stop looking externally for the answers, but really finding them within myself.
Yeah. So that's awesome.
That's what happened. And I'll just say, I resisted the process almost the entire time. I did not want to do any of this. I did not want to go within. I did not want to be by myself. I did not want to make my own decisions.
Yeah.
I did not want to be my own hero. I'll just say that. I didn't.
Yeah.
Because I was scared. I was scared to be my own hero. I didn't know I could.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't know I could. So the entire process was terrifying for me and not what I wanted. And I went into it kicking and screaming the entire time.
Yep.
And, and I'll still say at this point in time, sometimes I'm uncomfortable and I don't always love the knowingness that I am my own hero and everything begins and starts with me. So sometimes I still move through fear around all of that.
Yep. And I think you touched on some awesome points there. One of the ones I wanted to get into was something that resonated for me a lot was, and I think most people go through this where we're sort of taught to go externally for answers, right? If we don't have an answer, then there is some guide, some human being somewhere who's going to give us that answer. And of course, this does happen with like intellectual or academic knowledge, right? When we're talking about, I guess, systems of thought or science, things that are, in this world for us to study. But when it comes to our purpose and what brings us joy and what brings us peace and harmony, what makes us feel like we're on track, right? Like, because I think that's the main guiding thing is that we feel, because we're listening to all this guidance from other people and we don't yet trust ourselves to tune in or know how to tune in or really even understand that that's a thing. We start to sort of go more and more off track. And then the further we get from alignment with, we could call God, creator, source, whatever, our true self, the further we get from that, the more darkness we experience, the more confusion and the more potent our seeking becomes to find it, the further we get away. And so that's sort of the catalyst. I think it's sort of designed in this way so that our early experiential guides in this world are our parents, our teachers, friends, etc. And all of them have their various limiting beliefs that they then cast onto us, and we do the same for them as well. And it kind of creates this soup of people that all feel sort of disempowered, and it's like a cyclical thing. And so what I want to try and do is change that so that people are kind of coming of age into their teenage years, understanding that they are the creator of their reality, and that they don't need to look to others to rescue them or to save them. They are their own hero. And so for me, when I first came up with the how to hero thing, I didn't yet fully understand what I was doing. I didn't know properly that we are fully creator beings. I didn't yet, like, I had heard of the law of attraction. It resonated with me a little bit, but my first exposure to it was through that movie The Secret, which I think is very surface level and like mainstream attempt at almost throwing people off. If we follow The Secret in the way that it's sort of described, it doesn't really give us a blueprint for success, I don't think. And I'm sure some people had success with it, or some people love it. I just found it to be a bit dry, a bit like surface. Though it's interesting, and I knew it expanded my perspective at the time. But I didn't fully embrace that within myself. What I did embrace was that I realized that in all of my past mistakes, I was always doing the best that I could, right? So that realized that, helped me realize agency, right? It helped me realize that I'm the one that's doing the best, and I'm the one who's responsible for all of these various outcomes. At the time, I didn't understand it to be sort of manifestation and creation through vibration, but I understood that I was the one drawing all this in and then perpetuating cycles, and I was the one that would hold on to resentment or anger, and not forgive the other person, and it would affect all my relationships, things like that. And so what I started to realize was that it was up to me to be the person that I see myself as, instead of being some other, puppet, I guess, is sort of how I felt.
And that
Yeah.
because I think the point you're making is huge and super foundational, that we are in control of our reality, and that we truly are able to adjust our energy and our vibration and our thoughts so that we can basically bring through us the life that we desire. And
Exactly.
it at first can be a painful realization that, oh my goodness, everything that I did create that was catastrophic, I created it. I wasn't a victim. It wasn't done to me. Through my own ways of being and my energy and my vibration and my thoughts, I was creating all of that.
Yep.
So I think it's a bit of a little bit of a process, like, oh my gosh, wow,
Totally.
I did create all that. But the good news is, so if I created that, then I can create something different. I can create something that is more aligned. When I align, then I'm going to create what is aligned.
Yep.
So it's taking just full responsibility for your life, for what's happening in your life. And it's great, because when we take full responsibility, that means we have full power. We have full creative capacity to bring through the life that we desire.
Absolutely. And I think for me, it helped me to let go of any of the past, mistakes, perceived mistakes, anything that didn't seem to go ideal for me. It helped me to just realize, I can shift now. Shifting happens in the moment, right?
Yes.
The expansion of what you are to yourself, your self view, your story and narrative of who your personality is can shift instantaneously. But it has to be done with like a knowing that you can shift instantaneously. And the more you know that that's the case, the easier it is for you to shift into that new you, that you that was always trying to come through.
And the way I like to think of it is that anything that's happening external to us right now, we can just think of as temporary external circumstances. This is what we have created up to right now.
Yep.
Everything else is up for grabs. It's never too late.
Right.
Can shift our lives in any aspect at any moment in time.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, and so for me, how to hero was I had this idea that I would just start to document my journey from
Yeah.
realizing it was up to me
Yes.
to teach people what I was learning. And then my learning skyrocketed so quickly
Yes.
that that concept didn't make too much sense anymore. Um, what I realized is that I can't learn for people. All I can do is express my experience,
Yes.
and in that way, sort of show the way or show a way.
Yes.
And so I kept the name How to Hero because I still talk about awakening the hero within and that type of thing. And that's all I think it is. I think it's literally like just, oh yeah, I can be a hero. I am a hero. I am a creator. This is up to me. I'm creating all of this. Once that like clicks for real, everything sort of shifts pretty quickly. Everything changes quite dramatically, I would say. I would find that like that understanding of that I am presence,
Yeah.
once that's felt, like I think that's a big step in awakening and in the ascension, I would say.
Yeah. And I would say um, that really understanding and knowing and embodying that I am source, I am God is still like a new level for me. Like that's part of what I'm still integrating
Mm-hmm.
into my way of thinking about it. Like still sometimes I get a little, I toggle between, oh, I'm going to like pray to God. I'm going to ask for this.
Yeah.
Wait, I am a
Yeah.
part of God down here in my vessel, experiencing itself.
Yep.
And I just think that's such a different idea than most of us grew up with.
Oh,
That we
totally.
are God.
And
It,
a lot of religious organizations call that sort of blasphemy stuff. I wouldn't
yeah,
be surprised if we get some comments on this video to that
yeah,
degree, like go find Jesus or things like that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Jesus is my homeboy, so I actually have a little thing of Jesus. Oh, it's over there. I have a Jesus fish on the wall that actually you got me when we were in Florida.
Yeah.
But I think for me, I pretty much, I would say like 80% of the time now, I'm aware that I'm a
Yeah.
creator.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's a strange place to sit once it starts to be the majority of the time, um, because uh, you you sort of are just marveling at the strangeness of people, the beauty in the personal eccentricities of people who you
Yeah.
see as yourself,
Hmm.
uh, also as creator. Um, and I'm sure you've experienced these things before. And it starts to get, it can get a little weird because like it can feel like sometimes when I'm talking, it feels like my guidance is speaking to me through another person,
Yes.
and I have to be careful because what they're saying is not necessarily my guidance, and it could be distorted. So I have to then make sure I apply my discretion to it, to
Yeah.
anything I experience in
Yeah.
the like that's outside from the self.
Yeah.
So that's been important for me.
That's a great point, and I experienced the same thing. And when you say sort of bringing your own discernment to it, like a lot of the times I absolutely feel that spirit is talking to me. Well, I'm talking to myself through other people, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And I'll just get like a little like hit of like, oh yes, this is definitely spirit is talking to you right now with what this person is saying. Not all the time, but it's just like a hit inside that you feel it.
Yeah. If they're trying to inhibit your expression in some way, you're not likely to feel that resonance with what they're saying, right? You're more likely to be like, this feels closed off, this feels off somehow, this feels kind of bad, or limiting.
Where internal guidance system that we talk about just is so helpful. Like if it ever doesn't feel right inside, then it's not aligned. Something is not aligned with your high.
I wanted to, while we were talking about alignment, because what is aligned makes me think of desire and will. And I wanted to just read a quick, I did that channeling that I shared with you.
Yeah.
And so I just did a channeling with Ka Anra Nuifre, which is sort of like how I embody like the name that I have given to my, what we would call in magical practice, the magical personality. It's also called the higher self. You could call it knowledge and conversation with the holy guardian angel. So it's sort of a channeling with the inner being. Some people will channel the inner being, and it'll have a whole bunch of different name structures for it. Anyways, mine's Ka. So I'll just start it off at the top, and then I'm only gonna read I think it's like 2 answers. Yeah, it's 2 answers. So Ka says, "We greet you in the divine light of the infinite all one." And I said, "What is desire? Not the sexual desire, but the desire in regards to what we want in life in various areas." Ka says, "Desire inspired by love is God's will. It is your inner will. It is guided by your inner light, your heart. Desire inspired by fear is the turning away from God's will, as fear will always create what is not. The infinite creator is all that is. The infinite creator is you. What you desire, you are given. This is law. You create barriers to receive some of your desires, and as such, these barriers cause resistance. This resistance is due to fear of the personality, which may also be known as ego." And then I said, "Does that mean if I desire something and I feel inspired and loving about it, this is me experiencing a feeling of God's will being seen?" Ka says, "Your will is God's will. God's will is yours. You are all things, and yet you are not real. You are a hologram, as your peoples may say, whereupon thought has been projected. This thought is God's thought. This thought is God's love. The infinite all one has provided you an environment to learn of your creator status. This may be seen as a school. This is a school for gods, a school for finding your path and choosing. Will you serve others or will you serve yourself?" And so I thought that was pretty empowering. And it was really interesting for me because this is one of the first times that I've been able to just have this really fluid, really poignant presence and sensation of a different but not different, like separate but not separate consciousness coming through me. And so I like what they say about your will is God's will. And so this goes back to sort of your mission, right? So personally, I believe that if you want to follow your mission and you want to know what your mission is, you literally just have to sort of think about the things that you always told yourself you could not do.
Yes.
Those are likely good cookie crumbs or breadcrumbs to your path, in my experience. The things that terrify you the most.
Totally. And I wanted to share that I have had the same messaging, the same guidance, that my dream is God's dream. We are the same.
Yeah, there's no separation.
God's dream is my dream is God's dream. And to me, this was mind-blowing, revelatory, because I absolutely grew up constantly having my dreams sort of smashed. Like, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. And I think it's common to sort of equate our conception of God with maybe our relationship with our parents or, adult hierarchy to us. So I think for the longest time, I thought my dreams, God is not interested in my dreams. I have to kind of sneak around to try to get my dreams fulfilled. God doesn't care about my dreams. God does not necessarily support my dreams.
Yeah.
I totally saw my dreams as separate from
God
God.
has a separate plan going on, and you're
Yeah,
just
God,
asking to get included in it, if you please,
like
right?
maybe God just wants me to like do things I don't want to do. That's what it felt like to me.
Totally.
And so what you just shared from your beautiful channeling, and also my own guidance has said the same thing. It has kind of blown my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what could be better news?
Right.
That what is coming through our hearts, what feels so precious to us, is what we're here to do and experience, and that we have the full support of the other side.
Yeah.
This just, to me, there's no better news. It's amazing.
Yeah. And you know, it's easy to sort of resist the idea in different areas, right? So like we may accept, yes, you know, I am creator for maybe my business, right? Maybe
Yeah.
we're really good at believing that we can be abundant in our business because we're creator, we're the I
Yeah.
am presence, we are God's creating. But then when you know, we have an argument with, you know, our parent or something about some issue and it triggers all these feelings in it, we immediately go back to separation and be like, why are they being like this? Why are they? You created that too, right? So it's almost like we have to constantly remind ourselves that all of it is us, and we are all of it, and it's all of our creation. And we can create out of love, but we can also create out of fear.
Yes.
They're both considered. Everything that we think, sort of fear or love, is considered to be desire by the universe. If we fear anything, like if we fear that we lack control in an area, we will lack control in that area until we recognize that, oh, we are divine creators.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of the universal energy, in a way, is neutral. It's just going to bring you whatever you're serving.
Yep. Exactly.
So yes, if we are serving out fear, then we're going to experience fear.
Yeah.
For me, I think I'm still coming to terms and integrating that. Really, it is, I like to use this phrase, it is my divine birthright. It is everyone's divine birthright. Yep. To live our dream lives in every aspect of our life, that there is nothing too good. Like we are truly here to bring heaven to this planet, to live in heaven on this planet.
Yep. And I'll say too that the more aligned you are with your truth, your personal, we all have a unique mission, and somebody said in the comments that some missions are larger than others, or some are smaller, and that's right. There's no distinction between service. Like all service is service. So literally, you know, somebody that like a mother that stays home with the kids and sort of makes it her mission to raise loving, you know, expanded children that are supported, and all, like those kids may then go on to do bigger things, smaller things, whatever. But serving at all is enough, right? It is service. So
and the way it has been shown to me is that it's like we are all pieces of this grand planetary puzzle, this grand planetary mosaic. And that the way we really can bring through tremendous positive shifts to our planet and the way we live is the more of us who do connect with our dreams for our life, including our life missions. And then it's when more and more of us are embodying that, like a puzzle coming together, or a mosaic coming together, or a team coming together, that we bring through the transformation. So it's not just like, oh, I want to bring through my dream life so it's fun and I have a great time. It's so much bigger than that.
Mm-hmm.
Us all connecting to our purpose, to our dreams, to our alignment is, to me, what I've been shown, literally the way we transform into a new earth.
Yep. And what people will find is that people that know this about themselves, that know that they're in control, their creator, will be radiant. They will radiate a certain presence that will be attractive to other people, whether they're in public or not. Um, they'll just have that sort of glow about them, that assuredness, maybe, um, and
And
it'll be attractive. So they'll be showing how to embody that.
yeah, it's a beautiful point. And I think what that is literally life force. It's literally prana. It's literally spirit embodying that person. It's the
Yep.
divine embodying the human vessel. Is That's what you're seeing.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
it's the empowerment, the love, the
Yep.
peace. It's it's how we really embody our divinity,
Mm-hmm.
is through that alignment.
And when we witness that in others, that people that are embodying their own divinity and
Yeah,
following their alignment,
yeah,
it we feel that pulling that we have within to source, and
yeah,
because we're watching source display something to us
yeah,
directly, that's aligned with our pathway, and so we feel called to get involved with this person in some way. I'll just say quickly, I had a neighbor. I didn't know much about him until after he moved away, but when he was here, there was something about him that when he talked, like, people would start to sort of gather around and listen to him speak about just stories. Like, he would just talk about his life or things that were going on. And then when you were talking, he was listening with such an intensity that, I don't know, it just was like you were the center of the world to him, right? And so I never understood what that was, but now I totally get it. And since then, we became really good friends and things like that. But and I know more about his sort of spiritual journey. But at the time, I was just like, this guy's just amazing. I just love this dude. I don't know what it is about him. He's just amazing.
I think another example of that is when we're around young children who have not yet been
Yep.
so socialized that they've come out of their alignment. So, every child is different, but usually, like, maybe children under 10 or so
Yeah.
have not yet been socialized enough to leave their alignment. And so they're really living in their pure divinity.
Yep.
And I think that's why we're so drawn to being around. I mean, even just being around a baby, we can just feel there's something so sacred about a
Mm-hmm.
baby's energy.
Yep.
And I think what we're talking about is just like when human beings are just so in alignment with their own divinity, we feel it.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. And I wanted to say too, everyone has access to this guidance. Like, it's not, you don't have to be a psychic or a channeler. What you could say is that every human is a psychic and has this capacity. The only blocks they have is the belief that they don't have the capacity. So, literally, you can sort of, one of the things that I like to recommend to people is to write down when you have synchronicities. Write down, I created, and then write this, what the synchronicity was, and perhaps what it meant to you. But you write down, I created this. So, just for example, on Friday, I said I would love to just see like a shitload of unicorns this weekend. Just, I want unicorns all over the place. And I've been seeing them everywhere, everywhere. Like, my kids came over, my daughter had a surprise bag, a goodie bag thing, and there was unicorn bracelets in it, and like, she has a unicorn, she got these brand new slippers that she bought with her allowance money or birthday money maybe, and they have unicorn on them and rainbows and things. And then I saw unicorns when I was out. I saw them on TV. Anyways, I just saw unicorns all over the place. And it's not that I was looking for unicorns. I let it go, right? I just said I would love, I was sort of a test, but I would write down, today I created an experience of unicorn abundance, right? Like, and if that meant something to me. And the more that you do that, it's like you just sort of keep confirming for yourself that you're doing it. And then you get more and more knowing. And as that knowing gets bigger and bigger, it just becomes like a second nature. Like, oh, I just created that. I just created that. I just created that. It expands like, and then it starts to ramp up speed.
And
Yeah.
I feel like maybe there are two aspects that we could talk about a little bit more here is this one aspect of creating, which you just gave a great example of, and then this second aspect of how can I feel my guidance? How can
Yeah.
I feel, spirit's voice through me? Like
Yeah.
those two seem very foundational to embodying your own hero. Like, oh, I'm hearing the guidance and I'm creating. Like
Right.
if you got those two working for you, your hero mechanism is just totally activated.
So I'd like to hear your advice on how to listen in, and then I'll give my perspective as well. Let me just I might scribble some stuff down to make sure I don't forget to say certain things.
So I feel that probably being able to tune into that own voice inside of you is maybe different for everybody. And I'll just say what has worked for me. And the biggest thing, well, there's many big things. For me, it feels like when I'm able to somehow relax my thinking mind is when I'll more likely hear that inner guidance. So for instance, sometimes I go in and out of doing yoga, but I would notice when I would do yoga, let's say a few years ago when I was kind of still going through a lot of like intense awakening, I just noticed by accident, oh, when I do yoga, I seem to get a lot of like information come in, a lot of knowingness, a lot of guidance. And in the beginning, I didn't even really consider it guidance. I just was like, wow, I'm getting like a lot of ideas and direction. Yep. And now I see it that, oh, that's guidance. But, yep. And I think partly why that happens during yoga for maybe many people is that the body has to do stuff. So the thinking mind is a bit engaged in just having the body do postures and positions. Yep. So the thinking mind is kind of like taken care of. It's almost like you have it's almost like your thinking mind is a little child, and you put your little child in front of a TV or something. So it's busy, it's happy, it's distracted. Yeah. And then the guidance can come through. So I noticed for 100% that physical exercise, it could be running, it could be yoga, it could be biking, even walking to a certain degree, yep. Can really help my guidance come through. And then what also seems to really help is to be alone. Mm-hmm. To be alone is just huge because, well, if I'm not alone, I'm usually talking to someone. Yeah. And and that's beautiful. I love to be with people, but my guidance tends to bubble through when I'm alone. Mm-hmm. And my thinking mind is a bit engaged. And I think I mentioned this in the last stream, is that when I go through my house every morning and clean it up as a mom, I get so much guidance during that time too, because my thinking mind is enough engaged. Yeah. And what I also want to say is I think this is just a muscle that we build. It's a practice that develops. And I think in the beginning, when I started to become more attuned to this, I didn't even know it was guidance. I didn't know. Yeah. But over time, I can just now more make that discernment. And over time, now it seems to just now sort of constantly flow through me. But I think we can all it just builds, and totally. It's okay it's okay if you feel it's not happening at all in the beginning. That's okay.
Yep.
It will and can. And
Yep.
even just setting an intention or a prayer, like, please, please guidance, please come through me. Please show me the way here. Please,
Yep.
please, please be as loud as possible so I can hear it. Please help me.
Yep. Exactly. So I think you touched on one of the major aspects of, I think, feeling your body as well. So I think there's two major ways that we experience our guidance. We experience it through feelings in the body, but we also experience through emotions. And one of the ways that we can hear our guidance without actually hearing it is through our emotional guidance system. So
Yeah, absolutely.
the more that we are in a state of an emotion that we would consider to be negative, something that's based in lack or fear,
Yeah.
anything that's based in lack or fear, our inner being makes us, gives us the catalyst of feeling bad,
Yeah.
because we are separating from the inner being. When we're doing that, we're separating from truth, and we're choosing to engage in a confusion,
Yeah.
a fear-based state. And so it's sort of the opposite of what we would think sort of instinctually, where when we feel something, someone says something, it feels bad, we presume them to be the enemy.
Yeah.
And then we think we have to either defend ourselves or we have to do, something like that. But what's really happening is, what we need to do is go, oh, this isn't true. That's why what I'm feeling about myself is based in illusion, and it feels as potent as the opposite often, but it's not. It's a creation of the personality or of the egoic mind. It's not. It's not your inner being giving this to you, and so that's one way.
It's such a good point, and I just want to like pause and
Yeah.
emphasize just that, because it's so helpful and so true. And I'll just kind of repeat what you said, that if we have, say, like a difficult interaction with someone and then we feel bad, then we think we feel bad because of that person.
Right.
That's the old way of thinking, that, well, I just am not going to talk to that person anymore. But we really feel bad because of how we're kind of perceiving the situation or the thoughts that we have. And we might go into fear or anger. Yeah. And not that any of that is wrong.
No, not wrong.
It's okay and important to feel all that, yeah, and then get back to the truth, which is love and unity. And I can create whatever I want here. So,
and I just want to add to that, like, it's so important to say that it's not wrong to feel the bad feelings. It's required, actually. It's necessary to have those bad feelings come in, in order for you to know what is, what peace is.
Yes.
You need to know what it's not. And so peace is not conflict. It's not suffering. It's not war. Peace is the lack of those things, right? And so to know truth, you need to see the confusion or the illusion first, and just by reminding yourself that, oh, I feel bad, I must be engaging in some sort of belief in illusion, which is essentially the personality manipulating itself into a state, and then the inner being goes, that's not true, this feels bad because you're not in alignment with truth right now.
And I think what it is we can visit with what we might call negative emotions. Like, it's very important to visit with them and honor them and move them through us, but we don't always have to live there.
Right.
So we can live in basically peace and optimism, knowing that we can create the life we want. And as we get triggered or activated to feel these other feelings, which are important to feel, we just move them through us.
Exactly.
So we always want to honor, like, above all, like, this is one of my number one things I want to just say to the world is, above all, always honor whatever you are feeling. Always.
Yep.
Always. It's
Yep.
so it's so important to honor it
And
and move it through you and feel it.
and the way that I'll share to the self speak around it is just to say, like something like, in this moment I feel XYZ, I feel sadness, I feel despair, I feel suffering.
Yes.
It's not, you don't want to say I am depressed or I am whatever emotion, right? Because and then you're sort of engaging in it and identifying with it, you're attaching identity to it, which empowers it to linger around. You sort of want to just observe it as if you're a witness, right? As if you're because that's really what's happening. Your source witnessing itself. So you observe it and just like you said, honor that you're feeling this way now. But then as that passes through, you can change it to be like, I don't have to feel this way. There's something about this that isn't true. So try to find where that's not true. Where's that pain coming from? And that's where you'll find the illusion.
Rumi, the Sufi poet, has a beautiful poem that basically echoes what you just so eloquently said. Do you mind if I just read it?
Not at all. Please, please.
So this is called The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So I think this just very poetically explains, what we've been saying.
What a genius.
Oh God. And it's so beautiful. It's like so beautifully said. So we can just see feelings that arise in us from interactions with other people or whatever, as these are visitors into our guest house, and they're helping us feel something important, and they're going to bring some wisdom to our soul's expansion.
Mm-hmm.
And so we welcome it all. And then the line about how it's also helping to clear us out.
Yep.
That running these emotions through us helps clear our vessel of these energies.
If we block them, we're just asking them to remain.
They just will remain.
Yeah, we're just asking them, take off your shoes and stay a while.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we're just going to attract additional situations to activate that same feeling so that it can move through us.
And you said a lot of times before, the volume gets turned up.
Yes.
So the longer it kicks around in us, the volume goes up and up and up until we're like, I cannot stand this feeling.
Yeah.
And then we do something about it, right? Or we finally let it wash over us and we have a meltdown in a parking lot somewhere, which I've done a couple times.
I like how you brought up the emotional guidance. So I started off with like the claircognizance guidance, like the knowingness. So that's a type of guidance. Then emotional guidance is a type of guidance. And then another type of guidance is like signs, people saying things to you, you seeing different words or signs or numbers. That's another type of guidance that is, I find that guidance in a way the most fun, right? It's like, oh, wow.
Just to comment on that bit of guidance, I had a struggle at a point where uh, like I was experiencing so much external guidance that
Yeah.
was that I was interpreting through a lens of distortion of fear. So, and I didn't know this at the time. So I would see synchronicities and I would think that they were negative, right? That the synchronicity was warning me about something I was going to do. But our guidance doesn't warn us not to do things. That's the if you ever feel a warning of like don't do this, don't do that, that's your personality saying that thing that you're thinking about is scary, and so I don't want to do that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so we can the personality once synchronicity in its core and like the idea that we'll see signs in the external world once that roots in the root of mind um, and the personality as well. Now, if the personality has distortion, it can apply that filter to the synchronicities too.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I wanted to give as a caveat to people, because whenever we look outside ourselves and see something and it makes us, we feel it's a sign. It is a sign. It is a sign. But if it's a sign of fear, that's again not true, right?
Then we bring in our emotional guidance system to like make.
Exactly. How do you feel about the sign? If the sign
Yeah.
makes you feel bad,
Yes.
it may still be a sign, but it's not being interpreted properly. There's a distortion occurring in
Yeah.
somewhere in the energy center. It's
Yeah.
being distorted,
Yeah.
and that I like that brings me to the way that you talked about clear cognizance, the clear knowing, right? So I think that there's most individuals are sort of geared towards either body sensation or some type of clair ability. I don't think that, and then they can sort of build upon those strengths. But anybody can do any of it. The claircognizance, the best way that I've found to increase that channel, that communication, is to just keep talking to it, keep asking it for whatever, ask whatever you want, and just try to hear the first answer. The first answer is usually the guidance. The second answer is often the personality
Yeah.
refuting that guidance, saying, "Oh no, you can't do that." So like
And I,
for oh,
that's
go
such a
ahead.
good point is to, again, honor your guidance. If you are asking a question and something comes through, to just take that leap of faith that you can trust that is your guidance.
Yep.
Sometimes it feels resonant,
Yep.
but like I know that has taken me kind of so long to do, to like just
Same.
trust.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. You trust it. Like you get to the point where like where I'm at now, like I trust it so much that even if like I feel like terrified
Yeah.
about what it's telling me to do, I
Still do it.
still will probably do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a good place to be. Um, and that allows for a lot of expansion because then you end up moving through these things that you thought were terrifying that aren't. That you realize as you finish them or go through it, you're like, this really isn't nearly as scary as I thought it was going to be.
And I think that's a great point that we're not saying, oh, when we tune into our guidance and we follow it, oh, it's just so, it's rainbows and unicorns. I'm never scared. Like, I think that's partly what you were just saying. When we tune in and live from our guidance, it doesn't mean that our thinking mind, our personality at times might not be scared. That can happen. That happens with me still a
Oh yeah.
lot, that I'm scared. And the way I think of it is like, you know what? No matter what, I'm gonna bet on myself. I'm gonna go all in with myself and my guidance. And if we go down, okay, I'm gonna go down with my own ship.
Right. Right.
And that hasn't happened. When I follow my own guidance, things work out even better than I ever could have expected. But that's just sort of, I guess, the way my thinking mind makes peace with it.
Yeah.
Because it's, and and maybe we've said this before, but I feel for me, often I will get my guidance and direction sort of just one piece at a time. I do
Yeah.
not, it is not clear how a certain situation is going to totally work out. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I'll just get, okay, I'll just feel like, oh, this is your next best step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so much is really living in your faith, and that just like deep trust.
Yeah.
Uh,
100%.
yeah.
And to help build the trust is literally to just try to keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
Some people have to be in quiet and go into a meditative state to find it. I used to. Um, I don't have to do that now. And that when I did that channeling, I was in a noise. I was in the kitchen. My dad was watching soccer, football. People were walking around me. There was music on. Um, so I don't need to be. And it was sort of a test for me, right, to see if can I channel while I'm just sitting at this in the kitchen with all these people around. Um, and it worked. It worked well. Like I even when the channel disconnects, it's right after I go, is this real? Am I doing this? And I start to have the doubts, and then I
Yeah.
lose it.
Yeah.
So it's trusting in it. Like
I think that's such a good point. One of the spiritual guidances that I do is to go into the Akashic records. And when I first started going in, I felt so unconfident and so, oh, I'm probably just making all of this up. This is not real. And I would repeat this little mantra. I would say, I believe, I'm willing to receive.
oh, that's awesome.
And I think it's kind of what you just said. Like when, like again, as energy bringers and receivers, if I'm in the energy of, okay, I do believe, I do have faith, and I do want to receive, then that is literally what we will experience.
Yep.
And if I sit in the energy of, oh, I'm not good at this, or I'm just making this up, then that could be what I end up experiencing too. So
Yep.
it's like constantly just taking that leap of faith and believing, and then you're just, then you are that energy, and then you're receiving that reality that, yeah, I do believe, and
Yeah.
I receive
Totally.
it.
Um, yeah. It's and one of the other things too. I'll just say is that like your guidance won't typically tell you what to do.
Yeah.
It'll give you some either phrasing or symbolism or something that you then interpret with your discretion as a guidepost, right? By um, basically feeling how something feels to you. Your gut like the how do I describe it? Like I don't know. Like I asked my guidance different questions about myself, like my soul's where it's from and different things like that, and the guidance is just like, I don't. This isn't important,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Like these things are transitory uh, to this, and also we can't tell you where who you are. You are who you are already. You tell
Yeah.
yourself who you are. It's already the information's already there within you. Like anything that you need, you just have to grab it and know that you can grab it, and then that's
In
when
the same
those
way, they don't want to be your guru. Like they
right.
don't, like they want you to just sort of feel into it yourself. And
Yep.
yeah, I found the same thing. And I want to say that to me, my most clear guidance is when I just feel, I call it this screaming yes inside of me about something.
Yep.
Could be a project for my work. It could be about something I want to do in my personal life. When I feel like just lit up inside and so excited and so full of glee and just this literally screaming yes, I feel that is my guidance saying that is the path. That is the path. And I love the word may, MEH. When I feel may about something, then to me that means that is not my path.
Ah. Okay.
And this is a really, to me, interesting digression from how I think I was brought up and how many of us were brought up. And I'll just say, in my business life, all the time, my thinking mind is saying, you should do this. This would be a good idea. This is practical. This is a
Yeah.
smart business move. But in my heart, in my body, I'll have like a may, like I don't really feel a fire about
Yeah,
that.
like you understand the logic around
Yeah,
it, but you're like, but I don't really want to
but I
that
don't
much.
want to.
Yeah,
And I think for
I know
so
that
many
feeling well.
we were so socialized, let's just say in the educational system, to constantly force ourselves to do things we didn't want to do. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know if I ever did anything in school really that I wanted to. So
very rarely for me too.
I was so used to just, oh, I don't want to do it, but I'm supposed to do it. It's the right thing to do. I'll do it. And
Hmm.
now it's a very different inner experience. If I'm like, I don't want to do it, to me, that means I'm not supposed to do it.
Yep,
That's clear guidance that that is not the path.
yep, yep. I'll also just share too that I think claircognizance is one of the easier ones for it to start with, the more typical ones. Um, but later, as you gain more knowing, and then start to work with like clairvoyance or clairsentience, uh, you can start to experience all that stuff too. So, like, um, my clairvoyance is not like I can't really see auras or anything like that in the physical. I could see them a little bit, but I can't determine the color or anything. But I can see them on trees and different things like that. But internally, my clairvoyance is very strong, so I can. Sometimes I'll go into these sort of little journeys where I'm looking for some type of guidance, and I end up going to these crazy places with all this weird stuff going on. And yeah, it's hard sometimes to be like, is this real? Um, but you're actually sort of putting your consciousness into another dimension,
Yes.
and you're creating in that dimension of like no time. It's not a physical manifestation, so the consciousness can just create, and you can create like really elaborate things the more that you trust in what you're seeing. And so you can build on any of these sort of clairs or capacities. You might be somebody that's really tied to your body, and just like you'll get the gut feelings. You maybe don't notice the emotion as much,
Yes.
but you'll like somebody will say something, and your gut will just be like, ugh, right?
Yeah.
And that's an indicator that that's not for you, whatever that is.
And
And
then
so that's important too.
I don't know if this comes for you, but I will, and maybe I'm just more attuned to it now. I'll get a lot of goosebumps and chills
Yep.
as confirmation. Like, I'm thinking about, oh, I think this is the next best step that my guidance is telling me. And then I'll just get like super goosebumpy and chills. And sometimes my crown chakra will like feel really
Yep.
tingly.
Yep. I get
But
those
that's
constantly.
okay.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's when you notice that and put your attention on it that it will grow. Like what you said, even you could even keep like a journal of, oh, today when I thought about something, I got some chills,
Yep.
and that's my guidance, and I'm looking at it, and I can continue to ask for that to keep coming in.
Yeah, and like you don't have to do a journal. Like for me, I just note it in my consciousness. I just note I created this. This is true. I
Yeah,
know this is true. I
yeah,
just note it every time I notice that I've created something.
yeah,
Um, and then the more that you do that, you can look at a tree and be like, I created that tree. Things like that. But I was trying to think of other ways to talk to the guidance. I think literally it is just keeping the ask, because some people feel it's very muted, right? They feel that they can't access it. So guess what? They can't access it because they're basically blocking it. And so they need to sort of, I think this is a really practical step for people that are in that state where they just don't feel like they're connected to it.
yeah,
Um, look for the reason, like why are you not connected to it? There's something you believe about yourself, that makes you believe that other people can do this, but you can't, right?
Yeah.
Because maybe you've done something and you feel that God's pulled away from you because of that, or maybe you don't believe that there is God or source. You don't believe in spirituality, which is fine too. We
Yeah.
could just consider this guidance to be coming from the subconscious mind, where the desires, the true like will, has been sort of veiled. If we don't go down that spirituality path with it, we can literally just say you're accessing the sort of the roots of your desires, and calling that for wisdom, calling your subconscious mind for wisdom. And so
I
you could even frame it that way.
Yeah. And I also think that kind of the more we can create and maintain peace in our life, the more easy it is to, in a way, not be distracted. I'll just, for instance, if you're in like a super, super unhappy marriage, for instance, and it's really easy for the thinking mind just to kind of focus on that and be distracted by that because it's painful, and there's just a lot around that. I do think it can be harder to have that space and peace just to sort of be within and to feel and hear the guidance. So I know for me personally, the more I was able to, in a way, clean up my life and sort of release what was not serving me, especially relationally,
Mm-hmm.
the more, so much more, I was able to really be with my guidance
Yep,
because
totally.
I wasn't like distracted.
Yep. I had to figure out another way, because I wasn't able to remove myself from
Yeah.
the stuff that was going on around me that I was finding disharmonious to my being.
Right.
So I ended up, um, essentially, when I would feel disconnected, I would I would try to find why, right? And usually it was like a sort of self punishment. It was like a you don't deserve it because you're not worthy, because like various things like that.
Yeah.
Um, you've done something wrong, or you've done something that is not, you know, it's blocked you somehow. And that's the trick, is that the only thing that you're doing to block yourself is believing that you're blocking yourself, right? So but it's hard to just transition that, like to just make that flip, especially if you have all of these different distractions that are occurring.
Yes.
And the more that these distractions are happening, and the more that the individual closes off,
Yes.
the less connected they'll feel. And
Yes.
so the trick is to then, you can open to the, whoa, I just punched my microphone. You can open to the things, right? The experiences, and feel what's actually happening there, for maybe for the first time in years, right? And that starts to clean the house as well. So
Yes.
if you're stuck in the situation and you don't know of a way to get to isolate, to get some space, you can start to sort of try and apply forgiveness, right? And forgiveness of self, forgiveness of the other. So complete forgiveness requires that you forgive the other person for what they seemed to have done. You forgive yourself for creating it, and then you let it go, and that stops the karmic cycle there, which stops that frequency of energy floating around in you, and starts to give you more space to move into alignment.
And I think what we've said is that there could be many different reasons why you might not feel connected to the guidance.
Oh yeah.
It could be that you're just distracted by your life, which life can be so distracting. It could be that you have limiting beliefs that I just can't do this. Other people can do it. I can't do this. It could be just like a basic lack of trust or faith in God or that there is any guidance. Um, but what I want to say, and I think this is what you're saying too, is that okay, given all that, like let's just say you have tons of limiting beliefs. Let's just say you're not sure God even exists or that you're God. And let's say your life is so distracting. If you hold the intent, if you hold the desire to, gosh, I really would love to have guidance here. I really would love to connect with my inner being and spirit. That alone will take you there. Like
Yep.
you, everything else can be a hot mess and you can still get your guidance. It just might be easier over time to clear things up and, you know, release some of the limiting beliefs, but you can still get there right now today.
Yep.
You with the intent and the asking that, please, I want to feel some guidance here. Please guide me.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I think that's important. We're often like, there's so many clients I've had that I try to explain to them that they're some of the things that they're sort of not happy about, or you know, that they're finding not to be ideal in their life, um, are that way because that's how they created them, so they can choose to create them differently now
Yeah.
moving forward. And then a lot of people too, that empowerment seems to frighten them to some degree, like, oh, now I'm responsible, but I don't know what to do with that. If I'm that powerful, then you know, I'm gonna mess that up, because clearly, look at my history. I've messed up and messed up and messed up, and you know, none of that is true, right? So yeah, like that's a big one. And you know, it's up to the person, it's up to the individual. All we can do, like as teachers or whatever we are, is just try to help explain and show and explain our experience. And it's up to the individual to really do it. And some of it is like, it's work, right? It's not always it's not always like this blissful feeling of divine love, right? It's, you know, you have to go through the muck a little bit and clean things out, right? If you're cleaning out your house to make it beautiful, you're gonna have to get into some nasty places, some dark crevices, right?
Yeah. And I think for myself, and maybe other people might experience this too, like sometimes it might feel easier and safer to the egoic mind to just, I'm just going to get a normal job and I'm just going to do kind of all these normal things that people are telling me to do because, well, then someone else will just tell me what to do and it'll be easier. It'll be less scary or something.
It feels, if to somebody that's been in fear for a long time, it feels safer.
Yes.
It feels safer to just stay there, right?
Yes. Yes. And it's kind of like there's a part of it that does feel safer, but then there's a part of you that can then feel so deadened and so not alive and not aligned and not really feeling full of life force because, well, you're just doing what someone else told you to do.
Yep.
And so being the leader in your own life, being the hero in your own life, totally embodying self-sovereignty in your own life is not necessarily easy or without fear.
Yeah, that's important.
But it is, I feel, the path to you feeling alive and to you over time creating the life that you most desire.
Yep.
And just think about it. You are the leader of your life, and being a leader is not easy.
No one else can think your thoughts or feel your feelings or,
Yes.
you know, change your divine purpose.
Exactly.
You know, you have a blueprint this is how it was described to me, that you have a blueprint at creation, like at incarnation, of your potential for your sort of soul's mission in
Yes.
this incarnation, right? There's a
Yes.
blueprint there. You don't
Yes.
have to follow that blueprint, but if you don't, you're going to feel out of alignment. You're going to feel like you're doing things that aren't what you want to be doing because they're not really what you planned to do.
Yeah.
But the human still has the free will to go whatever way they want. So yeah, so it's
And the thing is, like, it's sort of the difference between just being a leader in your life and being a follower in your life.
right.
So the thinking egoic mind, being a follower, might at least temporarily feel safer.
Yep.
And being a leader to the egoic mind can feel risky.
Mm-hmm.
But the fear is just an illusion. It's not the truth.
Right.
So if we can just be comfortable, gain some mastery over at times feeling fear through the egoic personality, and just remain in a leadership position in our own lives,
Yep.
we absolutely can create the most amazing lives for ourselves.
Totally. And I just want to add to that. You don't have to lead others.
Right.
Like that's a separate thing. If you want to, that's that's your prerogative. But the leader, I think the leadership that we're talking about is understanding that you're your leader. There's no other leader but you for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And your boss doesn't decide your life. Your parents don't decide your life. We all chose to come here with these certain characters in our story that help give us conflict or contrast for us to notice what we do want to do. So it's the people that tell us what we're not supposed to do or what they don't want us to do. Those are often like little indicators to where we're likely going to move towards later.
Yeah, and likely in every single challenging relationship that all of us have ever had, we can discern how we expanded because of that relationship. And so much of that expansion is about helping us be in our power, or to open our heart more, or to love ourselves more. There's always an amazing potential expansion from every challenging relationship situation we've ever had. So we can just kind of, in a way, see this whole journey as an incarnate being here as just this amazing, adventurous, expansive trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
Where we as individuals are expanding, and then we're also bringing through all that we desire in our lives.
Yep.
It's an amazing opportunity to be here.
Yeah, that's literally why we're here. In my opinion, based on my guidance, is we're essentially here to learn that what we desire will come to us.
Yes.
That desire can be influenced by fear or love.
Yes.
It can be based in lack or in separation or in unity.
Yes.
And that once we can get around that, then it becomes learning how to create in alignment with ourself.
Yes.
And and then ultimately, are we going to serve others or are we going to serve ourselves with this knowing? Because this power that comes through the knowing can be used any way you want. You can do whatever you want. There's no law other than unity. So, and that might sound a little bit off to some people, but like people that are sort of service to self oriented are literally there to show contrast to the ones who are service to others oriented, and vice versa. There is no right or wrong path. Us here, and people that watch this are, I would say, typically going down the service to others route. But any service, even if you decide like I'm going to spend this year to just work on my body and my health and study some stuff, like you're serving yourself, and you're empowering yourself, you can also be building more capacity within yourself to serve others more later, right?
Yes.
So
Yes. And that just, this message of whatever feels like your internal screaming yes, to honor that, and to
yeah,
not, worry like, oh, am I being selfish right now, that maybe I want to work on my body or
right.
whatever. It's just so much is honoring ourselves and our path, and just whatever is coming through us, to the nth degree, above all else,
Yep.
above all the possible criticism, naysayers in our lives, whether those are parents or friends.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one who can tell you about your own life.
Right.
It only you can tune into what feels right for you, and only you can create that.
And you also have the power to ignore that entirely and
Yes,
do what other people say. um,
yes, yes,
and then, then you also then have the power to resent them for it, even though it was your decision to follow their guidance, right?
yes.
um, and I just saw a comment. I thought this was super relevant to your story, Tassel. It's by Yoko Mortal. She says, "My journey." Maybe it's not a her, but he or she says, "My journey is very secret. I come from a family of doctors and engineers that see very black and white. I feel very closeted in that sense." I was wondering if you could comment on that, because that seems like a similar sort of scenario to your upbringing.
Yeah, I can definitely connect and empathize with that. I came from, actually, very similar, like, as you just said.
Yeah.
My dad was a professor, a doctor of engineering, so it hits both of those. Um, and my family, again, saw everything very black and white, and there was absolutely no space for me to feel anything or to have any say in anything. Everything was prescribed. Everything was told to me, and if I did not obey, um, there were problems. So I can totally connect with that and empathize with that. And I'll say it has literally taken me decades of inner work and spiritual growth to deprogram myself from that mindset. It's not a
Same.
small thing. It is not a small thing. And so just so much love, um, and blessings to you and to anyone. And I also think, in a way, it's probably possibly an eternal process that our souls are on, about our own sovereignty.
Hmm.
That's kind of my intuitive feel about it, that this is an eternal process of coming into our sovereignty as creator beings, as pieces of God.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
And I'll share too. My dad is a certified project management professional, or PMP. He started in systems analysis and computer programming, so it's very engineering, like computer science engineering, computer engineering oriented. It's not an engineering titling, but it's very similar mindset, very analytical, naturally skeptical, um, very label oriented. So to describe anything, it must be put into a box that can describe it in such a way that aligns with the narrative that's sort of being shared. And so for me, I like, that's why, one of the reasons it took me so long to find my own spirituality. Um, like I I was so skeptical of the stuff that I would see,
Yeah.
and I would see like literally sort of miracles of God occurring, and not notice them because I just wrote them off as coincidence, or I wrote them off as like, you know, just I must have missed something, or I'm being tricked somehow, or you know, something like that. And so I had a lot of like really interesting experiences where, you know, it was very clear that I was creating my reality, and somehow, you know, I was just ignoring it. Like one of the good examples I have is like I was in school for programming, and I was like, oh my god, like I can't do this for my whole life. Like I was already burnt out from doing school, and I didn't even finish. And I was like, you know what? Forget this. I'm just gonna go get a job, and I just dropped out and went and got a
Your
job.
major in college was computer programming.
It was I did a double computer engineering and computer engineering technology and computer programming programmer analyst. So
Because
it was
my undergrad was
computer science.
computer science and math, so
Yeah.
it's very similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So boring.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. 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 It was boring. It was boring. It was interesting to learn it, but once I started to understand it, and I'm like, oh, this is just boring. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's just monotonous. It's the only thing I did like about it is I found it sort of like a puzzle, like
Yeah.
a logic puzzle. And if I figure out the right logic and then I can make it work, I had a good
Yeah.
feeling about that. But
Yeah.
that was it. And then also that got few and further in between, the better I got, right? But anyway, so yeah, I had that very black and white, very label oriented view of things, and I would call myself an atheist, and eventually I switched that to agnostic because I started to believe that it was you know, sort of crazy that a human thought that they could explain this,
Yeah.
right? So I started calling myself an agnostic, um, but ultimately it's programming that's and if you're young and already in it and then already aware that this is occurring, you have such a powerful position now because
Amazing.
you don't have to let it influence you.
Yes.
You don't have to absorb the programming.
Yeah.
You don't have to engage in conflict either. Like
Yes.
you don't have to fight with people about your beliefs. You don't have
Yeah.
to justify yourself. Now it depends on, you know, the age of the person, but y- you're not obligated to be what the parent decides that you should be, right? And it's usually we have to go try and be that thing first, and then we go, oh, okay, okay, I get it. I don't want to do that, right? Um,
And and
yeah,
I think there's such a orientation in most societies that children somehow belong to their parents.
right. Yeah, they're like property.
Yeah, and you know are supposed to direct them, etc. And so it's just a great shift to make that all of us belong to no one but God and ourselves.
Hmm.
And we come through our parents, and our parents provide, you know, many necessary things for us to survive as children, but we do not belong to them. We are not here to please them. We are here only for our own beautiful, unique life purpose and life mission. And no one knows what that is except you.
Yep. Yep.
And you matter, and you are a free being to live out your life in that beautiful alignment. And sometimes that could mean that it's in polar opposite to maybe what your parents want you to do or want you to be. And that might be orchestrated so that you learn to really even power up more and to really ground into your own sovereignty. That might be part of what you plan for yourself.
Yep.
So,
And the more empowered I became in myself, the more other people respected my power or my sovereignty.
yes,
Um,
yeah,
the more we step into that, the more we are sort of letting the other people know where our boundaries lay.
Absolutely.
If we don't say anything, we're sort of just saying that what that interaction that just occurred is fine. Um,
Yes.
she said, "Our family is Christian. Keep in mind we're Asian. LOL. It's pretty tough." I'm not sure what the Asian part means, uh, but but yeah, my family was also Christian. I mean, you could call it Christian. It's like Anglican, which I guess is like a sort of Catholicism. I don't know. It's all sort of similar to me. I don't know all the differences. Um, yeah, in that case, you're not probably going to want to walk around saying I am God. You're probably not going to have a good time doing that. And it's okay because the spiritual journey is your own. You're not obligated to share any of it with anybody. But if you do want people to share it with, you'll end up finding places like this medium, where there's other people that are going through similar things, Facebook groups, whatever. You'll find people, it'll just naturally start to gravitate towards you the more that you allow it to. Um,
And
and
you made a really great point about, it really goes back to as within, so without. So you said the more that you did embody your sovereignty and your empowerment,
Yep.
you could see on the external how that was reflected back to you, that people would then respect that and be more aligned with your own empowerment and sovereignty.
Yep.
So it's like, um, if you're in a situation where someone maybe is not respecting your power, it is helpful to ground back into your power, not just for that situation, but for the next situation that might occur, because you want to be in your power so that the universe is seeing, oh, she's in her power,
Yep.
and the world is then seeing you in your power. It's just, again, you're creating your whole reality. So when you are in your power, you will experience being in your power externally as well.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And when other people offer us guidance, parents, whatever, um, I don't think we're trying to say don't listen to other people, right? We're trying to say that use your discernment, your
Yes.
true discernment, right?
Yeah.
Like,
What we're saying is always run it through yourself.
yeah,
Any information, always run it through
yeah,
your own system.
yeah. Um, and like, because your parents, most parents, even if they seem cold or distant, like most parents still do want the best for their child.
Yes.
They don't necessarily know how to bring that about.
Yes.
Um, and they tend to feel obligated to try to bring that about. Um, and so whatever pathway that they've sort of envisioned, keep in mind that like they've created in their consciousness an identity for their child. That
Yes.
identity is tied to them. Um,
Exactly.
and so they're sort of like, okay, I'm a good parent if I get my child on this path
Yes.
towards this thing.
Yes.
And if they deviate, then I'm a bad parent. So
Yes.
when they deviate, I try to correct by saying, no, 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 don't do that. Um, and so once you start to like notice those things happening, like you're in a really strong spot, because now even if your parents are not supportive of what you're learning, you don't really have to talk to them about it. You don't really have to share with other people your spiritual journey, your spirituality. It's a basic human freedom that nobody can make you speak, really, right? Um,
And you can really let go of what can feel like an inner conflict
yeah,
if you are still trying to please your parents, for instance, or a spouse or
yeah,
anyone. There can be such an inner conflict with that, because your heart, your soul knows your path and knows your alignment, and then your egoic mind might, well, but my parents want me to do this, so it's so uncomfortable
yep,
internally.
yep. You can also feel like you can be very empathic and understand that not adhering to their advice is going to hurt their feelings. And so
Yes.
then you can trick yourself and say, "Oh, I want to serve others, and me doing this will have an impact on their feelings. Therefore, I will adjust my behavior or something." Um, and I,
And Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just
Sorry.
gonna say, I think that noticing that is is crucial, because you don't want to adjust just to save someone's feelings, right? Um, like you're not responsible for another person's feelings. That's their own lens, context, filter. That's the way that they're seeing things. Not only can you not always anticipate it, but you can't you can't help them through it either. And if they feel a certain way about your actions, that's probably what they're meant to feel. Like,
Yeah.
not only are they a catalyst for you as being sort of a controlling sort of scenario, you have to learn how to operate within that environment. They have to learn how to deal with this child that is pushing against their guidance,
Yeah.
and they
We
have to deal with that whole thing.
totally, 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 totally. Children provide an enormous catalyst to their parents for
Yeah,
their expansion. So our parents feeling uncomfortable with our behavior or our choices is most likely completely orchestrated for their expansion.
yep, exactly.
And I feel like an expansion here for all of us is that we can be big enough vessels that we can hold all of this of what we're talking about, that we can stay aligned and on our path, and we can have compassion for others who maybe have a hard time with it, that we're able to hold all of that.
Yeah,
And that is not to say, let's say your parents are giving you a hard time about what is your alignment, that you might, that frustration or anger or anything might come up. It might, and then just honor it and feel it. But that it does seem, once you can feel all that stuff, you may land on more peace and compassion towards them. And I think that's one of, an
yeah,
ultimate goal, that we can be super aligned and know that I'm not here to please anyone. And at the same time, we can have love and compassion for people that maybe we are triggering and that it's hard for
yeah.
them.
Uh, what I like to try to return to find the compassion in those moments, is that that other person is acting in that way because they've forgotten that they are creator. They've
Yeah.
forgotten that they are here as an expression of God, as a creator being.
Yes.
And so, because they've forgotten, they
Yeah.
feel that they must manipulate the
Yes.
external world or other relationships in order to put things into
You feel
their distorted sort of perspective, and they're not going into it like with you as like the target. It's a self-serving sort of
it's
thing,
react.
and it's
Yeah.
it's reactive and typically unconscious. If you were to ask them why they did it after,
Yeah.
they would almost make up excuses because they're not even usually sure. And remembering that they're acting that way because that's the best that they know how to navigate that moment. That's the
Yes.
best they can do in that moment.
Yes.
And if you can think about yourself and think about, like, well, when I was in uncertain situations, I did things that maybe weren't the best. Like, I didn't know what to do. I did my best. That's what
Yes.
they're doing. But
Exactly.
maybe their
Exactly.
best comes across as pretty bad,
Yeah.
right? Like, but remembering that it's still their best,
Yeah.
uh, and understanding that at some point in some spectrum of time, you had the capacity to do exactly what they're doing,
Yes.
and likely did do it to a friend or to, in some, maybe in a smaller capacity, but you probably did that thing
And
that they're doing.
and you bring up so many great points here, including that so often when people close to us want us to change our behavior, it's because they're getting triggered and feelings are coming up that are so uncomfortable, they don't know what to do with them. And it's not even often conscious. It's not like, oh, I'm having uncomfortable feelings. I don't know what to do with them. So I'm going to try to make her do something different. It's not even, it's so more unconscious than that.
Yeah.
But that, I mean, that's a main reason why other people try to control other people, because they're just feeling uncomfortable in their own being about what's arising in them.
Yep.
But yeah, it's all really good points. And I just,
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, are we about at time here?
Yeah, I just noticed we talked way over what time we had talked about talking to. Um, I think we had said 2:45.
It's at 9 minutes.
Oh, okay. Okay, perfect. So I guess that'll conclude it for today. I think we covered a lot of stuff. I think it was good. I think it went well. I loved it all. We're going to be doing these weekly, so tune in. We were able to get into some of the chat as well, which was good.
Yeah, I want to say if anyone has any topics that interest them, please let us know. We would love to talk about anything that is precious to you.
Yep.
And yeah, we just basically, I think, talked about guidance today, and there's so many aspects of what I see as how to embody your hero that we can continue to talk about.
Oh, totally.
Guidance is one of them.
Yeah.
There are so many others. But yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. Thanks everyone for coming. Thank you, Tassel.
Thank you, Sean.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you next week.
Yes. Mwah.